Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about character walks. You've done a walk cycle. Hopefully, it worked well, and you got it working technically correct and with no mistakes, or at least not too many. So now the trick is to take our walk and give it personality and character. And this is really where the fun begins. This is where the fun starts with animation, when we start to take things and move beyond just making them work technically and try and get an emotional response from the audience, which is to say, make it fun, make it interesting, make it nice to look at, give it personality and character. And we can do that a lot with a walk, just by doing quite simple variations to the basic walk that we did in last week's exercise. Now, if we look at the image here, this is by Cliff Nordberg, who was one of the great animators from the golden age of Disney animation back in the 40s, that is to say in the 1940s, and he was in charge of training the animators, and so he would do these character poses for animators in order to help them do interesting and characterful animation. And you can see he's got a pose here. Here's a guy who's walking cautiously. He's walking probably on a slow pace, on tiptoes. Here's an angry walk he's noted violent accent down. So when the foot comes down, that's going to be a hard accent as that foot comes down. That means it's going to come down hard and fast and quickly to get an angry walk, and the body is leaning forward there. To get a proud walk, we've got Nordberg has the body leaning back, not really looking where he's going. He's almost too proud to look in the direction he's going. Here's a sad walk. The guy's gloomy. He's probably walking very slowly. His body is hunched over. Here's a kind of happy walk, bouncy and peppy, kind of full of life, full of energy, probably on a quite rapid timing. And here's a character kind of backing up, maybe backing out of the room, having just met the Queen or something. So all of these poses, and they're just poses for now. We haven't tried changing much to do with the timing or the spacing. All of these poses will change the character of the walk. Here are some walk poses taken from a book which I've mentioned before, excellent book called How to Read a Person Like a Book. And it's full of excellent, very simple line drawings which show character. Here's a chap who's dejected, depressed. This is what he calls the burst of energy walker, probably somebody thinking, somebody walking rapidly. Here's a preoccupied walker, that's probably a slower walk. The hands behind the back suggest that he's thinking. And here's a strutter, again, that's probably a fast walk, someone who's important and going somewhere in a hurry. So basically the trick with this week is to try some different character walks. One thing you might try is an angry walk, and here's Cliff Nordberg's example of the angry walk, violent accent down. This drawing is taken from the animator's survival kit, and you can see that to get that angry sense in it, you want to feel those feet come down hard and fast. And it's probably going to be a fast tempo, at least at 12 frames, business-like march time, and probably with the body leaning forward, something like that, leaning forward in a business-like way. There are endless variations we can try. Here's an example of someone that's again taken from the animator's survival kit. Here's someone who is very overweight, and overweight people obviously have a lot of mass to balance in their bodies here, and they tend to lean backwards in order to balance the mass of their tummies over their legs. So if you watch very, very overweight people walking, you'll see this kind of backwards balancing that they do. And the same is true for pregnant women. They've got a lot of weight to balance here, and they tend to lean backwards. A friend of mine, an animator, used to go to Disneyland in Los Angeles a lot, and he would take his camera and he would videotape people walking, and the reason he went to Disneyland is because all human life is there. It's families, it's rich, poor, black, white, all kinds of people, all kinds of social classes. Everyone loves Disneyland, and you can see all sorts of different people there. And he used to videotape people walking around and then go home and try and capture them in his animation. Really, really good exercise to do. And there are many different approaches we can take, or many different kinds of walks that we can caricature and animate. Here's a sad walk, somebody hunched over. Here's a less caricatured version, again taken from How to Read a Person Like a Book. And this is a dejected person, but you can see the body is hunched over, kind of slumping. It's probably going to be a bit of a slow walk, maybe 16 frames, 18 frames, maybe even a 20-frame cycle, lacking in energy, the body kind of slumping forward, and maybe the feet even dragging on the ground as he walks. Here's another example of the same thing. This is from Preston Blair's excellent book on animation. And this is a sort of shuffling, sad walk of someone. You can see the dejected body. There's no facial expression here, nothing on the face at all, but we can tell just from the pose of the body that this is a sad person walking. And this would probably again be on a slow tempo. Here's a happy walk, someone sort of bouncy, peppy, full of life. I think this actually down here is a skip. Looking at it there, yes, I think this character is actually skipping. So this would be more of a variation on a walk down here. But definitely you want a lot of up and down motion, lots of arms swinging, confident. Here's a very nice example. This is taken from the Sheriff of Nottingham. You can Google this walk on YouTube. If you look it up, it's a really nice kind of very energetic, very full of life, very bouncy, lots of up and down. It's an arrogant, confident walk. And this was animated by the great Disney legend Milt Kahl, whose work we'll come back to time and again. He was really one of the great legends of Disney in the golden age of animation. Here's the same thing. Here's a more childlike walk. You'll see that when kids walk, they expend a lot more energy. Unlike adults, they're bursting with energy. Adults tend to conserve energy as they walk, but kids, you'll see there's lots of arms swinging, lots of up and down motion, lots of wasted energy in a sense, because they're so full of energy they want to get rid of it. So children walk in a very different way to adults. Here's a happy chipmunk walk taken from Disney stuff. This is sort of bouncy, confident walk here, and there are lots of examples. And this here's an example of a cautious walk, which we saw at the beginning. Again, a slow tempo. Maybe the character's on tiptoes here. We're going to have the body kind of hunching forward, hugging the ground so as not to make too much noise. And we might have exaggerated arm motion in order to balance out the character as he's walking. Here's a proud walk, the body leaning back, kind of defiant, kind of confident. Again, we saw this one at the beginning. You can see here, again, this is taken from Preston Blair. This is the body's kind of arching backwards here to give us that sense of pride, of a kind of strut. Here's a worried person walking. Now, again, we saw this one at the beginning. This is someone who's preoccupied, they're worried, they're clasping their hands together, the body's kind of bent down, so they're probably thinking. Again, we can't see their facial expression here, but just the body language or the body pose is telling us a great deal about who they are and what they're thinking. If they were walking fast, it might suggest rapid thought, but for this pose, I'd suggest a slow walk, someone who's having to think hard about what's going on inside their head, less worried about getting someplace in a hurry. Here's a silly walk taken from, if you want to look this one up, it's on YouTube. If you Google the British TV comedy from the 1970s called Fawlty Towers, that's Fawlty, Fawlty Towers, and this is Basil Fawlty, who is the owner of a hotel. And I think if you Google it, I think this episode is called The Germans, and a moose head falls on his head and slightly deranges him, and German couples come for dinner, and he starts pretending that the war is still going on. It's very funny, very amusing, and very witty. And John Cleese is kind of a cartoon character in himself. Here's more Cleese. John Cleese kind of specialised in silly walks. This is taken from the Ministry of Silly Walks. Again, go to YouTube and Google it. Just enter YouTube. Just enter Ministry of Silly Walks, and you'll see this sketch again of Cleese walking around in a very silly way, doing all kinds of silly walks in the clip, and it's really very nicely done. Babies, if you look at babies walking, you'll find toddlers especially are kind of off balance, especially when they're learning to walk. They haven't yet quite mastered the art of catching themselves and falling over. That's a difficult thing to animate. Maybe one if you're feeling confident, you might want to tackle that one. Again, children, we've looked at this already, but children, you'll see, this again is taken from the Animator's Survival Kit, and you'll see this very kind of exaggerated walking action. If you want to see a really nicely animated children walking, go to YouTube and look for some of the stuff on Mowgli in the Jungle Book, especially when Mowgli is alone in the forest. There's some really beautiful animation there of Mowgli walking. What about a drunk person walking? Obviously, there's going to be a lot of overbalancing or a lot of poor balancing. But you'll see that when people are drunk, they tend to try and keep their heads still so as not to let you know that they're drunk, but their body is usually kind of wandering around underneath because they've lost motor control or they're losing motor control. That'd be quite a fun thing to animate. Again, possibly reasonably difficult. Here's something to check out. This is the Biomotion Lab. Again, I suggest that you Google this. It's a really, really nice resource for analysing gender walks. And there's a slider here where we can see you can change the gender from male to female, and you can see the differences between a male walk and a female walk. And there are very considerable differences between how men walk and how women walk. And it's very nice to see this using the slider at the Biomotion Lab. And what you'll notice is that fundamentally the differences are these. When a man walks, they tend to have their feet wider apart. There tends to be very little motion from side to side in their hips. And there tends to be a lot of side-to-side motion in the shoulders. And also the elbows tend to be out. So a super masculine walk would have lots of side-to-side motion in the shoulders, arms out, kind of akimbo, feet wide apart, and probably a fair amount of up and down motion as well. A more feminine walk would have feet closer together, possibly walking on a line, lots of motion in the hips, very little motion in the shoulders, and the arms and elbows closer in towards the torso. These drawings are taken from the Animator's Survival Kit. Again, this big masculine guy, you've got the feet wide apart, elbows out, lots and lots of rocking in the shoulders. Not much motion here in the hips because that would suggest femininity. If you look at a more feminine walk here, again taken from the Animator's Survival Kit, here arms close to the body, feet almost walking along a line. Think of catwalk models with their feet walking very close together. Lots of motion in the hips, swinging action in the hips. Every man knows about that as you walk down the street. And very little motion in the shoulders. Probably not much up and down motion either, more of a glide. Try taking your Monty walk and turning it into a feminine walk and a masculine walk. It's a really good exercise and really not that difficult. You can, if you just make adjustments to your existing walk, you should be able to make that one happen. An old lady might walk, again on a slow tempo, conserving energy, taking small steps, and her body's going to be hunched over. As we get older, our spine compresses. We get shorter and we tend to get more hunched over. How about a sailor? Again, taken from the Animator's Survival Kit. There's lots and lots of stuff on walks in that. If you haven't bought it already, definitely get a copy. It is the best resource for animators that I know of. Sailor's walk, you know, who knows? I've never animated a sailor, but a sailor might well be kind of rocking from side to side, almost mimicking the motion of a boat. Here's a sneak. This is taken from the Preston Blair book, and you'll see here you've got a lot of the body here starts off leaning back on the contact position, and then dramatically the body kind of rolls forward and then eases back and then eases back again, rocking right back on the contact position and then rolling forward. So you're getting this kind of forward back motion on the body. This is obviously going to be a slow walk, might even be one step every 24 frames. 1 1000, 2 1000, 3 1000, or it could be even slower than that. But it's not going to be a fast walk because presumably somebody sneaking is trying not to make any noise. Here's a walk on tiptoes. Again, it's going to be a slow walk. person's on tiptoes because they don't want to make any noise. It's going to be slow, cautious. That might be on an 18 frame timing or 20 frame timing, something like that. Here's some variations on a walk. Here's a skip. Actually quite a difficult thing to animate. I have to admit I've actually never tried it. It would take me some time to get right. If you want to have a go at a skip, I salute your courage. Not an easy thing to get right, and you would have to study live action reference in order to make a skip work. But it's basically the character here is going up. It's a run, except instead of landing here on the right foot, the character's landing on the left foot and then the right foot afterwards, which gives it the skipping action. Here's a double bounce walk. I hope you've already tried it with Monty. If you haven't, take your Monty walk and throw in the double bounce. It's actually a relatively easy way to get lots of life into a walk. As long as you've got a walk cycle working, you should be able to get the double bounce. And here's the eccentric drawing. So it's 1 on the contact, 5 on the squash, 9 on the passing position, and here 13. Actually, have I got? Sorry, we don't have the numbers in here. But here's the eccentric position here, the passing where we'd expect the body to be going up, and it's actually going down. So you've got basically 2 ups and downs for every step instead of 1 up and down for every step. Here's a character sleepwalking. This is Mowgli hypnotized by Kaa in the Jungle Book. Really, really beautiful animation here. And his body is kind of slumping forward. His feet are flopping. His arms are dangling. Here's some lovely animation also from the Jungle Book. This is the orangutan, King Louis, animated again by Shere Khan. By Milt Kahl. Not Shere Khan. Shere Khan is the tiger. Animated by the great Milt Kahl, the great Disney animator. And here, the joke here is that King Louis's hands are like feet and his feet are like hands. So he's completely ambidextrous with both his hands and his feet. Brilliantly, beautifully observed animation. Here's a wonderful walk from Toy Story 3. This is a clothes-obsessed doll. This is the Ken walk. Well worth checking out, really nicely done. It's sort of effeminate and metrosexual. It's kind of mincing, and there's almost no bend in the legs, as if he is a kind of toy without proper ability to bend his joints. Really, really beautifully animated. Spanish Buzz, another wonderful moment from Toy Story 3. Walks kind of like a flamenco dancer or a bullfighter, and that gives him his kind of Spanish personality. There's so many variations on walks. It's amazing how much fun you can have with it. I animated on the Thief and the Cobbler, my father's film, which I worked on in the early 90s, and I animated the walk on Zig Zag, the Grand Vizier, when Zig Zag marches into the city at the end of the film. And Zig Zag speaks in rhyming couplets, and everything he does is a kind of deviation from the simple, straightforward, direct route, and that's because he is a master manipulator, and as his name suggests, everything he does is a zigzag. It's not. He doesn't do anything in a straight line. So the trick with zigzag was to make his walk kind of like a zigzag as well. And this was a directing drawing from my father, who gave me this to work with. So I had the basic pose. Again, he's leaning backwards, which is just a proud, arrogant walk. He's not looking where he's going, because he's far too important to look where he's going. But his feet are kind of out in front of him, kind of pointy-toed. He's walking on his tiptoes. Again, you can see this at YouTube. Well worth checking out. It was on a 22-frame cycle, very, very slow walk. But his arms are kind of moving forward in a stabbing motion on an 11-frame cycle. So there's 2 motions on his arms and hands for every cycle on the feet, which gives him a sort of creepy, rather bizarre feeling. His head is kind of rolling up and down in his body, which also makes him feel very peculiar. And his shoes kind of unfold in this kind of horrid little, these slippers he has kind of unroll as his feet move along the ground, and they kind of make this nasty little kind of snake-like motion at the end, this little sort of reptilian twist as they unfold, which makes him feel, again, very, very, very creepy. If you watch, in fact, the animation at the introduction to the Animated Survival Kit video, again, you can find it at YouTube, you'll see that the introductory piece of animation is really just a series of different walks. And they're different character walks showing how much character and personality you can squeeze out of just a simple walk cycle, and how much that tells you about the way a character walks. You know, one of the things that you'll be asked to do working at a studio is to get personality and character into a walk, because it's one of the ways of finding the personality of a character. It's how do they move, how do they walk. It tells you so much about them. It's a really good way of getting into character. So, things to try. Try do a happy walk, a sort of which might be quite fast. Try doing a sad walk, which might be slow, foot dragging, gloomy. Try doing a masculine walk, feet wide apart. A feminine walk, feet close together. And try all of these on Monty as well, or a simple character. Then you don't have to worry about the upper body and the arms and hands. Try doing an angry walk. Again, this will be rapid, fast down on the contact position. And of course, if you haven't tried the double bounce walk, give that one a go too. So try some of these and see how you get on. And remember that animating a walk is a real gateway to giving characters personality, and a really good start for exploring the personality of any animated character.